It's 1 year prior to the year of the election.
Okay? And nowhere in our charter does it say that a particular district council member has to reside in their districts. I didn't know if that was a discussion. Technically, you know, the day before qualifications, if you live in District 7, you can move to District 2.
I think the mayor was just saying the year requirement doesn't apply to the district. And, but you do have to live in your district, and you have to keep living in your district during your term.
But it also needs to, if it doesn't already include, you got to stay there as when you serve. In other words, you know,
It does say that.
Oh, it does. Okay. Okay. So yes, I would agree with that. That yes, it does have to match the state statute because that doesn't match. So I would agree with those things, and trying to see if there's anything. I think that's all you mentioned that we needed to focus on, right?
But the technology aspect, as far as
Oh,
printing.
gosh, yeah. I like everything electronic, less paper. I concur. Right?
I do have a question now for the city attorney. Say I'm in District 5 and I serve 2 terms and I move to District 4, I would not be eligible to run for District 4 for a 3rd term.
No.
We don't have an abundance of people running for council positions right now, and in the future, who knows? And I don't see the negative. I see the positive.
That's that. For the 1-year residency requirement, I thought that was interesting. At first I thought, yes, I could get behind that. And then I realized in my case, I barely would have slipped through because I think I moved into my district 11 months before I ran. And I'm not saying my case is the reason I wouldn't support it, but there, like Councilmember Shepherd said, you could miss out on a fabulous candidate, a fabulous council member. Am I missing anything, Mayor?
No, I think you, Councilmember Hayden.
My last? Is this it?
I don't know if I've given my recommendation.
Keith, okay.
And
All right.
we can come back to you if you want to be
No,
last.
I'm
Okay, just.
The old guy agrees with technology and that we can keep things electronic. What else was there?
Living in the district.
Yeah. Again, I think.
Is that it?
Yep, I think so. And did I give you mine, Madam City Clerk?
So I have a response for the live in the district. I have you as a
Yeah,
yes.
I think that one's dead.
Okay, yep, and I agree.
One other item that I was going to bring up to see if any council had an appetite for discussion, and I know I did bring this up in the charter review meeting, and our city clerk could probably clarify what our existing policy is on qualifications. My understanding that whether it's an appointment or if you're running for election and you file for your candidacy, you have to be a member of the community for a minimum of 1 year. Is that correct, Madam City Clerk?
It's 1 year prior to the year of the election.
Okay. And nowhere in our charter does it say that a particular district council member has to reside in their districts. I didn't know if that was a discussion. Technically, you know, the day before qualifications, if you live in District 7, you can move to District 2 and run for District 2 council member spot, if I read the charter correctly. So I don't know, number one, if you're aware of that. Number two, if that's something that we want to discuss. For me, I think if you're running for a District 2 council member seat or District 7 or wherever it would be, you should have to live in the district for 1 year, similar to, and the only, I guess the only position that wouldn't include would be the mayor's spot. They would just have to live within the city. So to me, I think it's important enough to at least have that discussion. For me, I think that our charter should reflect that you have to live in that district for a period of 1 year if you're running for that particular district council member seat. So there are a few of the items that I know we talked about in the past. One particular item I thought we may want to discuss here tonight, and then the other items that you may have specifically. And the first individual, Councilmember Tate.
Thank you. I always thought that you had to live in the district that you ran, at least way back in the 90s, 80s, whenever it was. I thought that's the way it was. You had to live within the district that you were running for. So if that is not the way it reads in the charter, I would recommend that we put that in there. That is why we have districts. Even though we represent everyone at large, I thought that that's always the way it was. The other thing is, if I could ask the city clerk, I remember at our last meeting, we talked about the removal of the line item veto, and most of us were here. Did we agree to remove that or keep it?
So I believe that was one of the reasons it came back to the meeting. There were 4 people that were in favor of the removal. There were 3 that weren't, and then the 8th person wasn't at the meeting.
Here. Okay.
At all.
Well, I'm still in, gosh, I don't remember how I went on that, but can you check that out for me, Kimberly,
can.
and let me know, and I'll let somebody else talk?
Yeah.
And then the other things that the city manager has in here are the other ones, they're mostly housekeeping, and I don't think, I want to remember that the voting ballot is going to be long enough, and they're going to get bored when they, and then they won't even vote properly if we put too much on there. So cleanup has got to be maybe for another time. The filling of the vacancies is definite. The district that you run in is where you live for 1 year, I agree with, and then the line item veto. Thank
Okay,
you.
Madam City Attorney.
My light was on, excuse me, my light was on from when Councilmember Tate said, I thought you did have to live in your district. You do have to live in your district. I think the mayor was just saying the year requirement doesn't apply to the district. But you do have to live in your district, and you have to keep living in your district during your term. But the year prior to the election is not written there, I think, for the living in your district. So his point is you can live in the city, and if you want to run for
And then
District
you
3,
just
for
move into
example,
the
you move into
district. I get
District
it.
3
Okay.
in order to qualify.
Yeah, no, I would think you would have to have had residency in the district for 1 year before you file.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor. I also agree with you and Councilmember Tate regarding cleaning up the language in terms of where you're residing when you run, but it also needs to, if it doesn't already, include you got to stay there when you serve. In other words, I can't.
say that.
Oh, it does. Okay. Okay. So yes, I would agree with that. Line item veto, I also agree to keep. I think it allows our mayor the option to, delete something that, for example, comes up very quickly in a budget that maybe we didn't have all the information on or know, but it's trying to be pushed through a budget. I don't have any issue with keeping that. I kind of like that ability. I think it's a good move, just in case we have any issues in the future. Also, I was going to say exactly what you said regarding removing a council person for lack of experience, as we have learned, I know through our terms, Mayor, that yes, it does have to match the state statute, because that doesn't match. So I would agree with those things, and trying to see if there's anything, I think that's all you mentioned that we needed to focus on, right?
But the technology aspect, as far as.
Oh,
printing.
gosh, yeah. I like everything electronic, less paper. I concur. Right? And this happened the day we were resorting at Cape Coral Hospital with our COVID, right? That was the cow. Okay. All right, just double checking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And just to remind everyone, the line item veto, my understanding, it's only been utilized once in the history of Cape Coral. And that particular line item veto can be overridden by a majority vote of council.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, it's protection for all of us. I just think it's a good idea to keep it.
Okay. Councilmember Welsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I remember the conversation last time, and I was either way. I said yes on the veto. I could go either way, no on it. Just for ballot fatigue, I don't think it really is that important to me to remove it. So I do have a question though for the city attorney. Say I'm in District 5 and I serve 2 terms, and I move to District 4, I would not be eligible to run for District 4 for a 3rd term.
No.
So it doesn't affect your term limits at all where or what district you live in?
No, you can only run for council, a council member's seat, as opposed to the mayoral seat, 2 consecutive terms. That's not counting if one of those is, if like your first one is filling a vacancy. But if it's a normal 2 terms, then you only get the 2 terms, and then you have an opportunity, potentially, to run for mayor, and if you're elected to mayor, then that breaks the chain, and then the next election, you can run for a council seat if that's your preference.
Thank you. So to me, we represent the entire city. So if I were to live in District 5 my whole life, I know what's going on in District 2. So I don't know if we want to use a charter amendment in order to tie in the fact that you have to live in your district for a year in order to run for that district. Because we do represent the city on a whole. What I would like to maybe have us do is find a 3rd one that we could put on that we all agree upon. Like I said, I could remove the veto. I was for the digital, instead of paper, even though I'm a printer and I love paper. It's just easier, and it is better. I know one of the ones that I saw that I was interested in that might gain some discussion was giving the city manager the ability to hire and fire employees at will, which is more in line of what the state does. So that would be one that I would be positive for, and changing our charter to reflect more of how the state runs things. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Shepherd.
When it comes to council, I don't think you should have to live in your district for a year because, number one, I think we would be hurting the city. We don't have an abundance of people running for council positions right now, and in the future, who knows? And I don't see the negative. I see the positive of when someone's elected that they have to live in their district. But I don't see the negative if someone lives in a district for 6 months and then wants to run for that district, that we say, oh, no, you haven't lived there a year. I think that we would be hurting the city with that. I see a negative impact, not a positive one there. The way I look at my position as a District 2 council person, yes, I live in my district, but at the same time, all of us know that, I work on things throughout the whole city. I'm not just saying I only work for District 2, and that's all I represent. I represent the city as a whole, and I welcome all citizens, no matter what district they're in, to call me and work with me. So my opinion is that it shouldn't be necessary for someone to live in a district for a year to run for that district. I think we would be hurting ourselves. I think there would be possibilities of someone very talented that can apply for a district, and then for us to say, oh, you only lived there for 6 months or 7 months, so you're not eligible. I'm not really keen on that, but that's just my opinion. But like I said, once they're elected, I feel they should stay in their district for their term. That's my opinion. Thank you.
How about the other items that the majority of us have been talking about? You have the digital component. You have the, of course, the timelines that must meet state statutes as far as the elections, special elections. And what was the other? The line item veto.
Yeah, I was in agreement with everyone else.
Okay, on those. Okay. All right, Councilmember Cosden.
Thank you, Mayor. Madam City Clerk, can you please remind me how many we can put on the ballot? How many?
Yes, on the primary ballot, up to 6, and on the general ballot, up to 1. And that is just for 2022.
Thank you. Okay. So we're dealing with precious space as we make this decision. For the line item veto, I want to see that removed. I've seen it, no, I haven't seen it used, but I've seen it threatened twice, both politically. It was ugly, and I didn't feel like it was a good use of power. And I just don't think, it doesn't make sense because council can veto anything in the budget as a whole. So it just doesn't, and council can override the mayor's veto, so why does it even need to be there? That's that. For the 1-year residency requirement, I thought that was interesting. At first I thought, yes, I could get behind that, and then I realized in my case, I barely would have slipped through because I think I moved into my district 11 months before I ran. And I'm not saying my case is the reason I wouldn't support it, but there, like Councilmember Shepherd said, you could miss out on a fabulous candidate, a fabulous council member because of that requirement. People move all the time, but if they're in Cape Coral, I just don't think it makes that big of a difference as long as they live in their district when they're serving. The technology one, I do think that's important. In fact, that's to me the most important one. I think we should include that. Am I missing anything, Mayor?
No, I think you covered them all, the line item veto, technology. I'm sure you support the timeline change for special elections, and then I think that was all of them.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Hayden.
My last? Is this it?
I don't know if I've given my recommendation.
Oh, Keith, okay.
And
right.
we can come back to you if you want to be
No,
last.
I'm
Okay, just,
so serious. It's a joke. I'm a big believer in only putting things on the referendum that have the biggest impact and that won't create confusion. I think the special elections has impact. I think the line item veto has the potential to create confusion, especially since we have the safeguard that council can provide majority, 2/3 majority to override that position. So I don't see any need to mess with something that's never used. It's never used anyway. The old guy agrees with technology and that we can keep things electronic. What else was there?
living in the district.
Yeah, again, I think since it's in our charter that once you are elected that you must be in your district, and Councilmember Welsh is correct, we do serve the city, and I'm going to remember that when you vote for redistricting, when that one comes up. Yeah, I don't see any need to provide confusion in there, and I think that's all it will create. Again, when you're talking about a general election ballot that's going to have several state referendums on it, as well as other things, and I'm not sure we want to really put anything on the primary ballot where we'll probably have a less number of people that actually respond based on past percentages. Yes, this will be the first time since '98 that we've gone to a midterm election for our city. We've already did the last election for the presidential year was the first one in, 24 years or so. So to me, the special election one, and does the electronic one have to go to ballot? All right. So I guess that might be one. I guess we'll have to look at which one goes on which, primary or general, since we're dealing with one on that. But those would be the only two for me.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Long.
Up yes to digital. I guess I wouldn't be in favor of altering the veto, because of the redundancies that were mentioned. Regarding the 1 year, I think I'm of the same opinion as some others, that I don't think it's, the 1 year requirement is necessary. I think we serve at large, and I think the standard that we hold ourselves to, and I imagine the voters hold us to, anybody that might not have lived in that district for 1 year would be able to be confident enough to familiarize themselves with anything that requires them to know that. I think it's interesting for me because myself and I think a couple others have been here long enough to think, well, you know, we know the whole city, and I could see a situation where someone might be new, but that's where the requirement comes in, that they be a resident of the city as a whole for a year. So, yeah, I don't think I would be able to support the 1 year requirement for the district. Is that it?
Yep, I think so. And did I give you mine, Madam City Clerk?
I have your response for the live in the district. I have you as a
Yeah,
yes.
I think that one's dead.
Okay, yep, and I agree.